be the right height, and it has to repeat over and over and over again. And if anything moves, it can ruin all of the stuff you did before because it won't match and the people won't. So the big concern was after, you know, the earthquake and we came back to do the next, the B side as we call the receipt, there was the concern that the camera had moved, the track had moved, we didn't know the lighting could have moved, the shadow would be different, there's all kinds of potential things that you try to, you know, make sure it doesn't happen. And we said, well, we got two choices. We can either shoot the entire thing over again, or we can take a chance. And we huddled for a while, and we said, okay, we went around, we measured, we looked at everything seemed okay. Let's take a chance that it's okay. And if it isn't, then we'll come back and reshoot everything. So rather than make work for ourselves, we had some faith that, you know, the camera hadn't moved or whatever. And that when they developed the film and started lining things up and looking at it and all, everything was perfect. So we said, well, we accidentally made the right choice.
That's when all my little marks on the table came in handy.
Oh,
When the
that-
Polaroids, I'm
yeah.
going to script, going, what scene number am I matching to which cut?
Yeah.
I take exactly where you set the glass here and your little doodad,
Yeah.
or here, and I'm going just down, and between you looking through the camera and Ray, it just all looked GI'd, so
Yeah.
I got
that
a
was my
question
biggest
for
problem.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
forgot, yeah.
After Eric Stoltz left the film and Michael was brought in, I assume there was some reshooting that was done.
Yes, we
Now,
about 6 weeks of reshooting,
Yes.
half the movie.
Was there any of that you were glad you were able to reshoot because you wanted to do something different, or was it reshooting exactly the same shots just with Michael instead of Eric?
It was
or
a
a revision totally?
combination,
Yeah.
but most of it, when they decided and they replaced Eric, Spielberg, who was the producer,
Right.
came to me and said, okay, now we've looked at it all cut together and everything. We're going to change a few things. We're not going to shoot a few shots. We've discovered we don't need that close-up or that whatever. But he said, everything else looks great. Don't change a thing.
No.
Just keep going. Which was, you know, sort of redeeming for me because I thought, okay, we're on the right track. You know, so we just kept going with the same style. We just replaced the face in front of the camera.
But the energy level is so much different within 5
Oh.
minutes of him walking on the stage. Looking
Well-
up at an electrician on a ladder with a lamp and say,
Well-
hi, how are you?
Well, what was interesting is we were shooting 6 weeks after we started. We were shooting out at the La Puente Mall for all that stuff with the DeLorean and Doc with his truck and you know, fairly complex stuff. Yeah, and they decided to replace, and they were able to make a deal with Michael, and we were going to be working nights because Michael was doing his TV shows.
Family ties.
Yeah, and so nobody knew that all of this was happening behind the scenes because it was all big things with legal and agents and contracts and all the stuff that we don't worry about. You have to be a lawyer or a lawyer wannabe in order to handle that. But anyway, so we were out and we were shot about half of the stuff at the La Puente Mall, and that's the first time we meet Doc and so forth. So, you know, we were being meticulous, and you know, it was wetting down, and it was cold at night. Boy, was it cold! Yeah.
The doors wouldn't stay up on the DeLorean.
Yeah.
I had the air dryers on
That's right.
on the pneumatics there.
Yeah.
to keep it on.
But anyway, so that night, all the crew is showing up, and as we say, okay, call time, let's get to work. Bob said, okay, hold it, everybody. I have an important announcement. Would everybody come? Okay, so we'll all gather around. He says, okay, I have good news and I have bad news. What would you like to hear first? We looked at it. Okay, tell us the bad news.
It couldn't get any worse.
And he said, okay, we've had to replace Eric Stoltz with Michael J. Fox. And we looked at each other and said, that sounds like the good news.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I guess that is the good news also. So, and Michael showed up, and immediately the energy changed. That everybody was having a good time, laughing at this new boyish character who was meeting this crazy old guy.
Feet and legs didn't hurt anymore.
Yeah, no, it was, so it was, you know, at that level, it seemed like a good choice, and as we see when the movie came out, it was a good choice.
And the good news also was that they got to do 6 weeks more work, and
Yeah, we ended up with 6 weeks more employment
That's
on
right.
something we were enjoying doing. So it's hard to beat that.
Didn't have to stop putting that swimming pool in that year.
No.
So because you had to do the extra 6 weeks, did that then put a crunch on the editing side of it and all of that to get it for the release date?
Well, it was interesting that, how come I don't have a pocket? The prop guys always,
You
Because
got
I should
one right
be
over
taking it
here.
from you and I'm
Hey,
falling down on the
what is
job.
this?
they're left-handed.
Okay.
give me that. Okay,
Thank you so much.
post-production. That's the thing I always found strange, especially
I'm the one
nowadays.
without a pocket.
Somebody get Marvin a water.
And I don't have a footrest. Go ahead. It's all about you.
Your footrest is wonky.
So anyway, what they do now especially is they say, we're going to make the most amazing thing, Batman 26 or whatever, and we're going to release it September 2020. Now what else is there? Oh, we got to make the movie, that's right. So they begin and then they lose an actor and then something happens and something blows up and oh, thank you. And,
Thanks, sir.
and so
doesn't need one.
suddenly there's this big rush,
Put it in your pocket.
to try to get the movie done. And you know, it always seemed kind of backwards because what we would do in the old days when I was younger than I am now.
27, 28, 1927, 28.
And is that we would say, okay, let's start the movie now. When it got finished, they'd say, okay, when should we release it? Well, now they had decided that Back to the Future had to be released on a certain date, and they committed committed to the theaters and advertising all this stuff. So 6 weeks taken out of what would have been post-production, editing, recording the music, sound effects, all the visual effects if there are any. 6 weeks less time for the post-production. So they said, but we've got this release date. It's got to be released on this date. Why? Well, because I'm a lawyer, or something like that. Are there any lawyers? Okay.
Abolished all lawyers.
So, now they say, oh my gosh, we got 6 weeks less to do the post-editing. So, they start the editing and then they say, well, let's get another guy to edit these scenes. And then we'll add another guy. Now, as soon as this scene is, we've got to approve it faster because they have to start cutting the sound effects. And then, now then there's less time to score the music. And so everything gets compressed way down. And by working weekends and long hours and extra crews, they got it done.
Second unit.
They were also told to, because they had shot with Stoltz and fired him, or replaced him with Michael, I think Sid Scheidenberg said you need to pull $1 million off production.
Yeah,
So they
exactly.
cut a key scene. You guys know what that scene is? In the first film?
The burning of Atlanta.
It's pretty close. Michael originally gets back by going 88 miles an hour underneath the drop of an atom bomb. So tying in the atomic hit,
Yeah.
you know, and which later on, I think the Indiana Jones last week did the homage to, since Kathleen Kennedy and
Right.
Frank Marshall were on that. So that was the scene. So I'm curious, is that how the lightning striking the clock tower came to be?
Well, just to tag in my, previous allegory, when the movie came out and was finished on time, in spite of all of this lack of time, the studio said, wow, we looked at it, it's great, this is gonna do really well. I knew those damn post-production people were lying to us all this time, and they started cutting out weeks of post-production from other movies. You guys don't. Wow. So apparently the post guys on Back to the Future were hated for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe they still are.
People that couldn't put in that swimming pool because they got their hours covered.
They stepped up to the challenge.
Yeah.
So is there an answer to my question?
Sorry.
Was the clock tower resultant, the lightning hitting the clock tower because of cutting the scene where they had to go out to the desert and drop the bomb?
Yeah, it's interesting. Back to the Future 1 was a script that Bob and Bob pulled out of the bottom drawer of their desk. Bob, we made Romancing the Stone, big success. Another interesting story. When we meet back there next year, I'll tell you that one. But, so Bob and Bob were suddenly, after a couple movies, suddenly, they must know what they're doing. So they said, yeah, we sure do, let's pull this old script out. And it was actually pretty elaborate. They had written it so that when Michael comes back, well, in 1955, he violates the time-space continuum, not only with his mother, and father and trying to fix that, but also he tells Doc, because Doc is supposedly on the phone, saying, no, sell that stuff, sell that Exerox, what the heck is that? No, don't buy any Exerox. Michael tells him, no, you should buy, it's called Xerox, but yeah, you should. And he gives him some hints about technology in the future. So Doc gets a jump on it and invents the flying cars and things like that at that point. And which is why he's able to do it at the end of it. But anyway, so when Michael, as Marty comes back to 1985, all of this meddling with the time-space continuum, this Doc was inventing this new stuff and has come true, and now we have monorails, we have flying cars, all of this stuff. I don't know if anybody remembers Popular Mechanics magazine, but back in the 50s, they were predicting we were going to have flying cars and all that stuff. Now we're barely getting a little bit of what they have.
Wrist TVs.
Exactly, wrist,
Yeah.
wrist TVs.
Yeah, on your wrist.
That's pretty stupid.
Yeah, I know.
What's that you're holding?
Exactly.
So anyway, so he comes back and the entire world has changed. Well, when they tried to budget how much that would cost, the visual effects and building the stuff and the cars and flying, they said, no, it can't be. So Bob and Bob went back, changed that part, but they still couldn't figure out about the needing the 1.21, is that how many it is?
1.21
Yeah,
gigawatts.
with gigawatts, except that it's spelled gigawatts. And we talked about gigabytes, but Bob and Bob didn't know that it was really gigawatts. So they pronounced it gigawatts. A little side thing. Don't tell anybody this. It makes them look stupid and then I'll get blamed. So anyway, they said, whoa, this atomic bomb, there's where you get that much energy. And when they figured that out, it was not much different than changing the world in 1955 with technology. So they said, well, where are we going to get it? And they said, what would be cheap is a lightning bolt. And that's what it came into. But certainly had a lot more character. I mean,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
can we imagine the movie without Doc sliding down that wire? And,
So here you've heard the story of the origins of the lightning bolt
Yeah.
hitting the clock tower. Any other questions? We're going to be wrapping up here. Yes.
Did Eric Stoltz make any scenes that were better than Michael J. Fox?
He's not gonna say that. No, don't even start.
You're not recording this, are you?
No,
Tell them the truth.
we already know.
I think, you know, we all sensed, but a lot of us were privy to watching the Dale, Bob and myself, and you know, producers and Spielberg and all. And I don't think there was anything, you know, from the beginning that we said, oh my God, how can we get Michael to be Eric Stoltz? You know, it was the other way around. You know, Bob was always saying, no, you've got to be charming and boyish. And, well, yeah, but this is such a heavy story that
Yeah.
I was
Oh, well, it's good Brando.
yeah. So,
He kept wanting to call his girlfriend Stella instead of,
yeah. Can I call her Stella? So anyway,
that's a better line.
yeah. So there'll be little moments, things like, okay, so the lightning bolt, you got to get over here, run down the street in front of that store there. Camera's here, the car's here. Come running across the camera, the street, trip on the curb, you know, pick yourself up, and then jump over the car. And he said, well, wait a second. Why would I run down to that store? I would come just straight across from, well, we need to have you, you're in the edge of framing. Well, but my character, no, run to that store and then come across. But why would I trip? It makes me look like a doofus. Well, no, you're just really, I don't think I would, you know, and these conversations would go on. And Eric would finally say, okay, tell me again, why do I go to that store? And what he said, Bob would say, okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to roll. You run to that store, you run across here, jump over the car, stand here, and then I'll tell you. And Eric said, oh, okay, and you do it. But it was always a thing. So Michael would say, yeah, hey, that'd be pretty funny, okay, and he would do it.
How hard do you want me to fall?
Yeah,
that's what
and
he'd say.
I watched Back to the Future 3, and I look at all of these shots that stylistically Bob and I would set up with, you know, if you do, like I say, turn off the sound, you'll see that there's a sequence that I show for film students a lot of times, inside the barn when Michael has just been saved by Doc, and he goes in, and Doc says, I die in wet, and you know, Clara, who's this Clara? And so that scene, as long and as complex and close-ups and everything, is made up of 3 shots. 3 shots where the camera moves, the actors move, it's very choreographed. They come up into their own close-ups, then they fade back, and it's 2 shots, and then they come up, and then we follow over to here, and very complex. And Eric had a lot of trouble. If we tried to do that, he'd say, yeah, but you know, my character would stand over by the fireplace and wouldn't. We'd say, okay, this is a pain, but we'd try to work it out and we'd discuss it. With Michael, we'd say, okay, so you come in, when Doc goes over there, you just back up, then you turn around and you come up into your own close-up, and you'd say, okay, great, no problem. And he would take this intricately choreographed sequence, shot, and make it look real. There was, you know, he made it look like he was supposed to follow Doc in order to stay in the shot, and then would come into his own close-up and have a revelation, and then Doc would run up in it, you know, so it was really a lot of fun working with Michael, and his ability to take very technical acting and make it look like it was supposed to be.
He had a very unique formula. Working this close with him was a real privilege, and one of the few times I've ever seen an actor called cut. You know, that's like one of the biggest sins. This is an actor never calls cut or stops acting before the director calls cut. And he came into a shot, had this business to do, and he said, God, I didn't even believe that myself. And Wapsie had no problem with that at all, back to one, and got it in the next take.
Right.
But that, it was a real amazing technique he's developed over the years.
Exactly.
What a blessing. I think that's gonna wrap us up. Any last comments? Thank you. Last comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Will the dailies honor
I just want to say that this is a true privilege.
Yes.
It's a true privilege.
American icon. American treasure.
Don't get carried away. An Antiques Roadshow. But the value is astonishing.
written right in
They had the Indian blanket on, and the guy said it was priceless. Right here. This is our priceless Indian blanket.
Wilson said you got punched by him.
No, he didn't. He said he doesn't remember reshooting this. And that's because they didn't shoot it.
So those of you who would like to have autographs of these famous people, then we're going to have some signings over here, and all proceeds go to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research.
But their donation.
Look out.
Exatamente,